Hello, I'm Mike. I'm an ex Hells Angel member. I was a member and started the Fresno charter, and I transferred to Santa Barbara to start them up. And then I transferred back to Fresno, and that's where I left in 2011. I'm chatting with Staxx.
Welcome to this episode of Chattin with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Mike Lynch.
You don't hit him that one more time to seal his fate. You snatch him up. You know he's worth it. Save his ass, and let's move on. But I felt none of that. And like I said, the last 2 years of my active membership, I just felt like if it wasn't for the guys from out of town, I wouldn't have cared about it. But coming back to town and just being there and knowing that some of the individuals just didn't give a fuck. They want to do this, they want to do that. Fuck, tradition be damned. You know what I mean? The lines that we draw, we do that for a reason. Even though we're Hell's Angels, we need to check ourselves every now and then. And I'm one of those guys that needs constant supervision.
Do you think some of these guys watch too much Sons of Anarchy and they want to be Jax Teller? And
okay, well, I would think that in the last since that came out. Okay, now what's his name? What's the guy's name? The producer, the director,
Kurt Sutter.
Okay, well, Kurt. When all this was in the make, in the thought process, he had this show in mind, and he said he's not going to get a good feel of it by me just telling him. So Oakland invites him to New Year's or whatever, I'm pretty sure it was New Year's. In other words, everybody knows you're coming. Everybody knows this. But, we're not going to hold on to your belt loop and hold your hand. This is what you wanted to know about. So once you walk through that doorway, it's on. Because we're partying. We're not holding school. We're partying. We're having a good time. We get to see people that we never get to see, so there it is. And I believe, if I'm correct, that he had went to I think he went to like Sons of Silence, maybe the Banditos, a few other clubs because of geographics in different way. Because, California Hells Angels are, they're just way different. They're a different animal, and that's just the way it is, And then, so he went to like your Midwest, your East Coast. He got a feel of what was going on, and they came up with that show. I don't know. When I was active, I kind of made fun of it because I didn't really watch it. But then I actually started watching it, and I started looking who was in there. I start seeing Rusty. I start seeing DL. I see Chuck. I see Sonny. I start seeing guys that, I'm sure money's, you get compensated and all that, but pushing our way of life and our way of doing things and having it being portrayed by these certain actors, it was all right. I mean, to tell you the truth, I watched the Mayans too. I mean, not just because I wanted to know. I was curious, because I always been taught that knowledge is a weapon. And I want to be as knowledgeable as I can. I want to see their perspective. I want to see who they have there. I want to see the situations that they create and go into and what they do about it. Some are true to life and some are calm down. And, I'm sure they're not going to see the worst of the worst. Nobody wants to see that because that's personal between us and whoever. But yeah, I thought that them putting it out there and not making up, in other words, their technical information, their knowledge came from hanging around those different clubs.
Yeah.
And so when he created a certain episode, he'd actually probably had some information from another club that, like, for instance, and then he played on it, and I think that, pretty much everybody that's ever came to me, they say who it was made up after. That's their opinion. But I say, well, no, I mean, yeah, we were a major part. I'm sure we might have been a little bit more friendly and open because Sonny had worked with all these guys before. So anyway, but they got a little bit of everybody. And when he did an episode, he put a little bit of everybody in there. So I don't have nothing to say bad about it. Good for them guys. They got to make some money. They got to get in the shadow, and they still working with active members doing things that they normally would not do.
Definitely different for them to be doing.
You know what I mean? Who's going to see so and so on a TV show going like, what? But if you watch and you see the content and you see how it is moving along, it's not as bad as you think. It was entertainment, and I think it was basically right on.
How has your life been ever since you left the club?
The first, say, 2 or 3 years is pretty fucked up because you've got people, the club's still there. And regardless if you see them all that much, what they have to say is circulating in my area, in where I live and was born and raised. And
so you hear things, right?
Oh, it seems like somebody made it a point to call me to tell me, just to make me feel like, and I just go, hey, So once I kind of got over the initial bull of what, because I know myself what I did and what I didn't do. And I think everybody knew that I was a club man through and through. And, and at the end, you start drinking and taking the pills and just don't give a f. That was my downfall. I shouldn't have looked for that way to make it go away. I should have went and talked to somebody of higher stature, and then they would have guided me the way I should have gone. But I wasn't getting any kind of love in Fresno. And my biggest thing is because when you do 5 years, 11 months, and 11 days, and you complete the task, and the reward was that patch, okay? And then to have individuals that took absolutely no part in that 5 years, and to discard me like I was a piece of, and they know I can't say nothing back to anybody. I can't gather the troops. I can't get my posse and say, hey, man, that's not. And then as time went on, I started thinking about it, and I go, look, all I'm going to do is I might get the truth brought out. I might get this, but somewhere along this mess, I'm going to get Hell's Angels fighting each other. Somebody's not going to like it. And somebody's, and somehow, some way that I may stir the and become like a sideshow to the club. And I just didn't feel I fit that. And I just took the embarrassment, the punishment, the humiliation, whatever you want to call it. I took it and I ran with it. Now, there was guys running around telling people in town they better not go to my shop. They better not be seen at my shop working on their bikes or painting their bikes. And then a lot of these people are citizens, man. They're not us. They're not gangsters. They're not nothing. They're just guys that run around, and the next thing you know, they got some idiot over here telling them, hey, mother, this guy this and this guy did that. And they go, wait a minute, I know him. There's no way in the fucking world. But, what are they going to do?
So they're telling citizens not to talk to you.
Citizens that were like my customers, they were telling guys outside the charter things. When it would come to me, I'd lose my temper. And that's one thing it took me a long time to get rid of, is I don't give a what you say. Because if you're not saying it to me, you're scared. Okay. If you're not coming up to me and getting on here, talking to me directly and say, you blah, 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 what's your side of the story? Then I'm not afraid of you. You're afraid of me. You're afraid of what I know and I don't say. It's not my business. I don't, some things, if it's damn sure wrong, I'll bring it up. But Pee Wee brought something up the other day when everybody was talking. He goes, man, do you get mad? Well, everybody is, and I'm working with one or two that still are. But what I'm saying is that 5 years, 11 months, and 11 days that you can't believe what you've done, what you've accomplished, what you've done out of the middle of nowhere. I went to Alaska 5 or 6 times. And if you think that's some kind of goddamn Florida vacation, you're wrong, but we did it. And the first time that we went out there, I took my vice president, Hank, up there with me. We were the only 2 guys in the United States to go up there on their anniversary party. And they do what they call the Frozen Few Run. So we get up there and they're going, you're it? They looked at all the flight schedules and all that, and they go, you're it? I go, well, it don't matter. We don't need help. We're used to being the underdog. So whatever needs to be done, spill and we'll get it done. Well, they had a prospect, a 3rd charter starting in Alaska. And I forgot which town, because they had Anchorage and Fairbanks, and we were in Fairbanks. Anyway, these guys come up. They don't ride their bikes. Which, okay, if it was up weather, maybe should have left early. That's
Is it snowing? Is it snowing at the time?
Well, and this is New Year's.
Oh,
so, it's up. But I rode.
You rode your bike
there for us. So when the run came up, we didn't get no car. We grabbed a bike and we ran. And I'll tell you something. I was on the ground so many times I busted my tailbone. But I'll tell you what. It was the funnest experience to put that under your belt. Say, yeah, motherfucker, ride an FXR when it's 25 below and you're going down. And you know what I mean? It's something to say that I did. It's like being in the service when you accomplish things that you didn't think you could do. I'm all proud of it. Well, this other charter was up there. They're all prospects. They all come up there in one of them 15 passengers, air conditioning, barbecue heater, bar, all that in one of these coaches, right? And they parked on the property up there where the clubhouse was. Well, me and Hank, we basically stayed outside for 3 days. We ate, we did this, and after they got done with their meeting, then it was on. But they kept looking for this other charter. Mike, where are them guys at? And I says, man, all I know is that you gave us this area, and for 2 of us, that's a lot of area to cover. So we don't get to see much of anybody else. But anyway, these guys had that van in the back of the property back there, and they're the whole charter's in this mother. Got all the heaters, defrosters, you name it. They're all in there, huddled up, right? And Dale tells me, go find those motherfuckers. I said, okay. So I go find them, And then I say, okay, I go back clubhouse. I said, well, I found them. They're all in their van and they're all huddled up. And there he goes, none of them guys, participating. I go, well, if they're not in the clubhouse helping, they damn sure ain't helping us. He tells you, Mike, go back there and get all them guys, bring them to the clubhouse. Within a half an hour, they were no more. Get them out of here. And I said, no problem.
Oh, so they didn't make the cut.
No, they didn't make it 20 more minutes.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because they told me, hey, Mike, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay. And it was just me and Hank, and we didn't have no problem with it. There's how many guys in there? About 8 or 9? I don't give a fuck. I know if you're in there doing this, you got to be a pussy. You know what 100%. I mean? 100%. We're from Fresno where it's 120 degrees, and we're sitting out there 20 below, and you motherfuckers live up here.